Have you heard of this concept called the anti-hero? In storytelling, we all know we have a hero, the main character who we love and root for. And when we start telling our story, it's easy to think that we should be the hero of the story. And when sharing with others, present ourselves in the best light. Now you mix that in with the message that's so popular right now about be authentic. So it's a little bit confusing knowing about how to position yourself if you're sharing your story for the first time, whether it's through speaking or content, to know the balance between building authority and connection and also to being honest and authentic. So how much is too much to share? And how much of the dark should you let in? Enter this idea of the anti-hero. Still the main character of the story, but their deficiencies, their weaknesses, their imperfections are very clear. And it's not just something that maybe happened to them, like they can't help, but also maybe things that intentionally are real character flaws. This is such an interesting idea because we actually connect more with folks who we see ourselves in. And we know that ourselves are not perfect. And so there's a sense of relief when there's someone that we admire and we're paying attention to. We can actually see behind the curtain a little bit. I love this point from Adam Ivy. He is a YouTube expert that I interviewed a few months back. Check this out.
Look at American Idol. Look at The Voice. Look at America's Got Talent. One day when I was really bored, 2 or 3 years ago during COVID, I watched 3 episodes of American Idol. And on average, there was less than 7 minutes of music actually played in an entire episode. It's about the origin story. It's about my wife and I love binge watching the show alone. It's like they drop off a bunch of strangers in the middle of nowhere. The show could be 12 minutes long if they just played the action clips, but it's all about storytelling and it's all about the mental stuff that they're going through. We look at shows and then we look at our content. We don't correlate the popularity framework and format, right? These have been like refined over millions of dollars, decades of professional television programming research.
I don't know about you, but I love me some Voice. I love me American Idol. Those backstories, what's interesting about them is you end up wanting to root for that person more based off of their background. And now if they came in there and was like, life's just been so great and I've always just been beautiful and had such a wonderful voice and that's been just such a great gift, you'd be like, go home, Janet, right? But no, man, we want to see people with weaknesses win. So this is no doubt Heather, right? But here are 2 really interesting ideas if you're wanting to lean into the anti-hero a little bit more in your own story. First idea comes from Steven Bernstein. He's a film writer, director, has been in the industry for a long time, telling stories for a living. And he shared on the show about empathetic bridges.
When the audience cares about characters, and that means vulnerability, and you have that combined with mystery, you have a film, and it will never fail. By empathic bridge, it's not going to core competencies, but incompetencies. When you see a middle-aged man like me in front of a mirror, and he's about to go out on a date, and you see him brushing his hair forward over his little bald spots and so on, and getting very nervous and just straightening his tie and putting on too much aftershave, and then he goes off on a date, cut on a date with a woman who doesn't seem to like him that much. Who do you sympathize with that moment? Yeah. Empathize with the guy because we built the empathic bridge, because we've shown his vulnerability and his humanity.
Damn, that's so good.
And if he realizes, he said to his, had a phone call just before he goes out and goes, I'm so depressed. I can't find any reason for life. If this woman doesn't like me, then I give up. Now he's at this date and she doesn't like him. The mystery, what's he going to do? The empathic bridge, his humanity and his vulnerability. Will that film work? You're damn right it will work, because you've done those 2 elements. So action is great and important, but action about someone we don't care about, no engagement. Action with no mystery, there's nothing that advances us to the next stage. But when there's mystery, when there's uncertainty, when there's complexity, we as an audience want answers, and we will keep watching until the filmmaker provides.
What I love about this idea is it's not necessarily something huge all the time. It could be something small, like you mentioned, fixing the toupee or this moment of embarrassment. Usually when we post stuff, we want it to come across in the best light. Like, I'm so humbled that I'm made $1 million this year. What a humbling gift. And people are like, bleh. Again, Janet, what's going on? I don't know why I'm picking on Janet. We need another name. Craig. If you're listening, Craig, I'm sorry, love you. Just first name popped in my head. But these perfect posts, perfect stories, we want to see humanity. Now, here's the counter to that. And also, there are some people online, I think, who are pushing that envelope a little bit too much, where they're like pimping out empathy. You know what I mean? Little empathy for you, little empathy for you. Sad story here, sad story there. It's like all the time. And you're like, is this like curated authenticity? You know what I'm saying? This next tip comes from TV writer Michael Jamin. He's written for King of the Hill, Beavis and Butthead. He's been in some really funny rooms. And when I asked him about how much is too many flaws to show in a character before we start losing connection, he said,
I think there's a difference between sharing and oversharing. And so sharing is basically me writing something that makes me uncomfortable to say this. It's hard for me to admit this. And people like people share.
Totally.
Oversharing is when I make you uncomfortable. You're the listener or the reader. And like, that's too much information. Like,
how would you gauge that? How would you know?
Well, I mean, but you kind of know, you're at work or whatever, and someone starts to, and you're like, TMI, too much information. You have a sense of it when people are oversharing. It's making you uncomfortable. So you just got to put yourself in their shoes. And I remember, I'm writing this book. I'm writing it with the audience in mind, with the reader in mind. I want to entertain you. It's not about me. This is not my diary. That's a different thing. So everything I'm saying is to entertain you, or to in some way, not necessarily with laughter, but also, emotionally. And so I'm writing with you in mind. When I'm writing every story, I'm like, who's this line for? Is this for me or for the reader? So, like, sometimes I go, oh, this is just for me. Well, then I cut it, If it's only going to entertain me, that's selfish. You just plugged down $20 for the book. Like, I'm trying to give you what you want here.
So I hope this is helpful. We connect through our weaknesses. We connect through deep imperfection. That's what makes us root from one another. When you're telling a story, think about empathetic bridges. What is something, even the smallest minute thing, like embarrassment or tripping on a stage or being honest about being nervous. It doesn't have to be a huge tragedy in your life. It can just be an honest reflection about your real experience. And 3, knowing what is too much to share versus just enough is check within your gut. Is this difficult for me to share to a degree? If not, maybe it's not honest enough. But then thinking empathetically about the other person, like Michael said, you'll know in your gut if it's, too much. I love storytelling. I love all this connection stuff. I love communication. I hope this was helpful for you. If you're watching on YouTube, I'd love to hear what you're working on. Are you sharing a story? Are you making a speech? Are you interested in this topic because of your own podcast or content? Drop down below. Let me know. And that's it. Love you guys. Bye.